What is it that separates the land of the waking from the country of the asleep? It is a fragile, permeable membrane, a gossamer veil through which all sentient life must pass. We call it rest. We call it slumber. We believe it a sanctuary, a nightly reprieve from the inexorable march of time and trial. We are taught that it is a small death from which we are reborn with the dawn. But this is comforting fiction, a lullaby sung to soothe a child afraid of the dark. For the domain of sleep is not empty. It is not our own. It is a sprawling, untamed wilderness of the subconscious, a topography of pure potentiality, where thoughts untethered from logic are given form and breath. And in this wilderness there is a sovereign, a silent, watching presence that plucks at the ephemeral threads of our innermost terrors and aspirations. She is the gifter of morbid regrets, the weaver of the panoply, the queen of nightmares. She is Vaermina, and tonight we shall journey into her kingdom of dread, not as sleeping supplicants, but as waking observers, tracing her venomous history through the annals of Tamriel. Close the shutters, bar the door, but know this: you are never truly safe when you close your eyes. To comprehend Vaermina is to attempt to chart the geography of a scream. Unlike the overt brutality of Molag Bal or the revolutionary fervor of Mehrunes Dagon, Vaermina's influence is profoundly intimate, an insidious violation of the self from within. The Mages Guild Archmagister Hannibal Traven once cautioned his apprentices, stating, "Of all the Daedra, Vaermina is the most subtle. She is a poison dripped into the ear of a sleeping king, a doubt that festers into a paranoia, a forgotten memory that blossoms into a debilitating phobia." Her sphere is the very fabric of dreams and nightmares, the chaotic melange of memory, fear, and desire that constitutes the mortal psyche during its most vulnerable state. It is from these oniric territories that she draws her power, feeding on the terror of a child lost in a shadowy forest of their own making, or the exquisite anguish of a lover reliving a final, bitter parting. Mortals often perceive her as a crone, a cliché of wicked sorcery draped in shadow. But her true form, like the nature of a nightmare, is mutable, shifting to reflect the deepest anxieties of the observer. The Slowed scholar Nagasta, in his infamous Nagasta Kavata Kavakis, wrote of the Daedric princes with a grotesque reverence. Though the text is notoriously difficult to parse, its passages on Vaermina are chillingly lucid. "The grasping of the grifter is not on the flesh, no. It is on the isness of the self that sleeps. She does not break the bone. She unravels the belief that the bone is real. She does not kill the body. She convinces the soul that it was never truly alive." Her dominion, her plane of oblivion, is the realm known as Quagmire. The name itself is a deception. It suggests a swamp, a simple mire. But the reality is infinitely more horrific. Quagmire is a dynamic, ever-shifting landscape stitched together from the stolen nightmares of mortals. Every visit is unique, as the realm molds itself to the visitor's deepest fears. One moment, you may be traversing a windswept tundra of jagged obsidian under a bruised velvet sky. The next, the ground dissolves into a corridor of writhing tentacles, the walls whispering your most secret of shames. Landmarks are transient illusions. A looming citadel promising shelter might decay into a pile of dust and regret upon approach. A placid lake could, in a blink, become a boiling sea of blood, from which the faces of your failures surface to silently accuse you. As described in the esoteric text on Oblivion, I have seen Quagmire, or rather, it has been seen through me. The air is thick with the residue of forgotten screams. Reality is a proposition, not a constant. Jagged architecture built from solidified anxiety, hands in a sky of curled mink. I watched as a fellow traveler, a stout Nord warrior, was confronted by a vision of his own heart, its fire inexplicably consuming his family. He ran towards them, and the ground became a sucking marsh of grasping hands, pulling him under. The vision did not fade. It simply watched impassively as he drowned in his own despair. This is Vaermina's artistry, not destruction, but the meticulous, personalized dismantling of the soul. The denizens of Quagmire are as unpredictable as the realm itself. While familiar Daedric fauna can be found, they are often warped manifestations, things born of nightmare logic. Here, a clanfare might stalk you not with claws, but with the voice of your disapproving father. A Daedroth might not breathe fire, but exhale a swarm of insects that burrow into your mind, implanting fabricated memories of profound guilt. Vaermina's power is not merely to create fear, but to give it substance, to weaponize an individual's own psyche against them. It is this fundamental principle that informs every action she takes upon the mortal plane of Mundus. Her incursions are not invasions of armies, but of ideas. She does not conquer cities. She hollows them out from the inside, leaving behind populations of sleepless, paranoid husks. Every Daedric prince is intrinsically linked to an artifact of immense power, a physical conduit for their will upon Nirn. For Vaermina, this conduit is the skull of corruption. It is not merely a staff of destructive magic. It is a siphon, a collector, a projector of psychic anguish. Its history is a long and sordid tapestry of betrayal, madness, and torment, woven through the ages. The skull's precise origins are, like its mistress, shrouded in the mists of myth. Some scholars posit it was carved from the petrified cranium of a dreamer who had achieved a state of lucid horror, so profound that it breached the veil between worlds. Others claim it to be a literal piece of Quagmire, a fragment of solidified nightmare given a terrestrial anchor. Whatever its genesis, its function is terrifyingly consistent. The skull of corruption does not cast a simple spell. It harvests the dreams, the memories, the hopes, and the very essence of those it is used upon, storing them within its grotesque form. Then, at the wielder's command, it can project a duplicate of the victim. This is not mere illusion. It is a psychic echo, a doppelganger armed with the original strengths, and more importantly, a chilling awareness of their weaknesses. This clone will then violently and mercilessly attack its progenitor, forcing them into a horrific battle against themselves. To be slain by your own corrupted reflection is a uniquely Vaerminian fate. One of the most vivid accounts of the skull's influence can be found in the annals of the Third Era during the Oblivion crisis. In the southern Cyrodiilic city of Leowen, a mage named Arkved had somehow come into possession of the skull. He was a man obsessed with the exploration of dreamscapes, and in Vaermina's artifact he found the ultimate key. But the door he unlocked led only to his own undoing. When the hero of Kvatch was tasked with retrieving the skull, they did not find a mage in a laboratory. They found a laboratory that had become a physical extension of a madman's dying nightmare. Arkved's tower was a monument to psychic collapse. Gravity was a suggestion, not a law. Books hung suspended in the air, pages fluttering in an unfelt wind. Feasting tables were set for a banquet that would never occur, attended by Daedra frozen in the act of slaughter. Their descent through the tower was a journey through the fractured strata of Arkved's mind, each level a deeper plunge into incoherence and terror. At the tower's nadir, Arkved was found not dead but trapped. He lay in an eternal, tormented slumber, his body a prisoner, while his consciousness was forever lost in a labyrinth of Quagmire. He had used the skull to enter his own dreams, and Vaermina, the ever-watchful toll-keeper, had simply locked the gate behind him. The skull of corruption lay beside his bed, pulsing with a faint, sickly light, gorged on the totality of a man's stolen life. The hero took the artifact, leaving Arkved to his fate, a fate arguably worse than any clean death. Centuries later, in the Fourth Era, the skull's pestilence would surface again, this time afflicting an entire populace. The hold capital of Dawnstar, a bleak and hardy port town on the northern coast of Skyrim, fell under a collective psychic malaise. Its citizens could not sleep without experiencing the same shared, terrifying nightmares. They spoke of twisted visions, of dark whispers, and a palpable sense of being watched from the precipice of their own minds. The entire town was slowly being driven mad by a communal, unending horror. The plague of the mind was a miasma, a supernatural vapor emanating from the skull of corruption, which had been hidden away long ago in the nearby Nightcaller Temple. A priest of Mara, a Dunmer named Arender, sought the help of the last Dragonborn to end the town's suffering. His involvement was no coincidence. Arender was once a cultist of Vaermina, a worshipper at the very temple that now housed the skull. He had fled during an orc assault decades prior, leaving his brethren to their fate as they enacted a ritual to put themselves into a magical slumber, a defense mechanism known as the Dream Stride. The journey into Nightcaller Temple was a chilling archaeological expedition into a forgotten tragedy. The cultists and the orc invaders were still there, preserved in their magical sleep, caught in a temporal stasis. To destroy the skull, Arender explained, they had to release the miasma. To release this miasma, they had to break the seal. In order to do that, they needed to enter the Dream Stride themselves, to physically walk through the memories of the past. The Dragonborn drank a foul concoction, Vaermina's torpor, and was plunged into the memories of a Vaerminian cultist during the final moments of the orc siege. They witnessed the betrayal, the desperation, and the fanaticism. They walked through a memory, a living history, and released the miasma, awakening the slumbering cultists and orcs into a disoriented, violent present. At the heart of the temple, before the skull itself, Vaermina finally made her presence known. Her disembodied voice echoed through the chamber, a silken, venomous whisper, attempting to turn the Dragonborn against Arender. She commanded the hero to kill the priest and claim the skull for their own. Here, a choice was presented: to obey the Daedric Prince, murdering a man who sought only redemption and peace for the people of Dawnstar, and in doing so become yet another pawn in her many games. Or to defy her, allowing Arender to complete his ritual and cleanse the artifact, breaking its connection to Quagmire and rendering it a mundane, powerless staff. While the ultimate decision rested with the Dragonborn, the event in Dawnstar stands as a stark testament to Vaermina's methods. The slow erosion of sanity, the exploitation of past trauma, and the temptation of power born from the suffering of others. Vaermina's most audacious and historically significant assault on Tamriel occurred not as a subtle, localized haunting, but as a full-fledged conspiracy that threatened to unravel an entire kingdom during the turbulent years of the Interregnum. In the year 582 of the Second Era, while the Alliance War raged across the continent, a new, insidious cult began to fester in the shadows of High Rock in Stormhaven. They called themselves the Supernal Dreamers. Their acolytes were not drawn from the desperate dregs of society. They were nobles, mages, and influential counselors, men and women of stature who believed that the waking world, Mundus, was a flawed, painful illusion. They saw reality as a prison of suffering and consequence. Their ultimate desire, their zealous gospel, was to erase the boundaries between Nirn and Quagmire, to plunge all of creation into an eternal, lucid dream under Vaermina's absolute dominion. A state of being they called the omen of a world without limitation. The first major gambit targeted the very heart of the Daggerfall Covenant, King Casimir II of Daggerfall. The Supernal Dreamers, led by a charismatic Breton named Duke Nathaniel, did not attempt a simple assassination. Their method was far more refined, far more cruel. They used their foul magic to prevent the king and his entire household from sleeping. Night after night, they were held in a state of forced, agonizing wakefulness. The city of Daggerfall then became a portrait of collective exhaustion. Its leaders grew erratic, paranoid. Their judgment, frayed by sleeplessness, became a liability. The kingdom was being decapitated, not by the sword, but by the slow, grinding pressure of perpetual consciousness. It was a siege of attrition against the mind itself. The Vestige, the hero of the age, intervened, uncovering the Supernal Dreamers' plot and breaking their hold on the king. But this was merely the opening move in Vaermina's grand design. The mastermind behind the entire operation was a powerful servant of Vaermina, a Daedric titan named Galthus. He orchestrated the cult's actions from the shadows, seeking to acquire an ancient relic known as the Dream Shard, an artifact with the power to tear down the walls between realities on a massive scale. His ultimate goal was to corrupt the spirit wardens of Bankurai, guardians of a sacred Redguard burial site, and use the concentrated spiritual energy of the location to pull all of Stormhaven into Quagmire. The scholar mage Abner Tharn, writing on Daedric cults, made a specific note of the Supernal Dreamers' disturbing philosophy. Most cults seek power or dominion or forbidden knowledge. The Supernal Dreamers were unique in their pursuit of ontological dissolution. They did not wish to rule the world. They wished for the world to cease its existence as a concrete entity. They saw in Vaermina not a master, but a liberator from the tyranny of the real. It is a form of apocalyptic nihilism so profound as to be almost incomprehensible to a rational mind. At the shrine of Vaermina in Stormhaven, the vestige confronted Galthus as he attempted to enact his final ritual. The air crackled with raw power as the veil thinned, the mundane stones of the shrine shimmering and giving way to the pulsating alien flora of Quagmire. The battle was fought on a precipice between worlds, a desperate struggle to prevent the waking nightmare from becoming the permanent state of reality for thousands of innocent people. Though the vestige was ultimately successful and Galthus was vanquished, the events in Stormhaven served as a terrifying demonstration of Vaermina's potential. Her plan had been meticulously executed, exploiting political structures and the psychological weaknesses of mortal leaders. It was not a chaotic rampage, but a calculated strategic campaign of psychic warfare. She had nearly succeeded in unmaking a significant portion of Tamriel, not through fire or blood, but by convincing its inhabitants to willingly surrender their reality. It proved that her threat was not limited to the lone dreamer or the haunted village, but could be scaled to imperil entire nations. To the scholars who dare to study the esoteric politics of Oblivion, Vaermina is often categorized as one of the more treacherous and self-serving of the Daedric princes. She engages in pacts and alliances when it suits her, but her ultimate allegiance is only to the amplification of her own sphere. Her primary motivation seems to be the acquisition of mortal memories and fears, the raw materials with which she crafts her realm and her power. In the compendium known as the Book of Daedra, she is described thusly: Vaermina, whose sphere is the realm of dreams and nightmares, and from whose realm issue forth evil omens. Her followers consist of priests who are able to manipulate the dreams of others, and cultists who use dark magic to bring nightmares to life. Vaermina's nature is that of a collector, but she does not hoard jewels or treasure. She collects the living moments of mortals, particularly moments of fear, torment, and anguish. She is said to find a perverse and exquisite beauty in the architecture of a mortal's terror. This act of collecting is not passive. She actively seeds the future with ill omens, subtle portents of doom that prey on the superstitious and the anxious. A black cat crossing a path is mundane coincidence. A black cat that speaks in the voice of your dead mother, whispering your date of death. That is the touch of Vaermina. She does not cause the calamity, necessarily. She merely revels in the fear that precedes it, savoring the psychological torment of impending, unavoidable doom. Within the Daedric pantheon, she has her rivals. Her most pronounced animosity is reserved for Periite, the taskmaster. At first glance, this seems an odd pairing. Yet, their spheres of influence, while disparate, are philosophically opposed. Periite represents order, albeit a stagnant and diseased form of it. He is the meticulous cataloger of Oblivion's lower rungs, the enforcer of natural decay, the prince of a perfectly ordered, if pestilential, system. Vaermina, conversely, is the embodiment of chaotic, untamable, subjective reality. A dream has no laws. A nightmare follows no logic. Her realm is one of pure, unstructured potentiality. Periite sees her as a form of psychic untidiness, a chaotic variable in a grand equation. Vaermina views his obsession with order as a pathetic and limiting constraint. Their mutual disdain is not born of a war for territory, but from an irreconcilable difference in fundamental nature. One is the dream, the other is the disease. One is the chaotic terror of the unknown, the other is the grim certainty of decay. She also holds a contentious relationship with Hermaeus Mora, the Prince of Knowledge. Both deal in the currency of the mind, but their methods diverge. Mora seeks to hoard all knowledge, to possess it as a static, complete library. Vaermina is interested in the experience of knowledge, the terror of a discovered secret, the madness that comes from a revelation the mortal mind cannot withstand. She is not a librarian, she is a vivisectionist of consciousness. Other princes have been known to ally with her for their own ends. She was among the Daedra who aided the Witch Queen, Jagar Tharn, in his impersonation of Emperor Uriel Septim VII, though her motives remain her own. She is a weaver of plots, a silent partner in conspiracies, always present where paranoia and fear can be used as a lever to move the machinery of history. We have charted her history through the machinations of her artifacts and the fanaticism of her cults. We have seen her bring a king to his knees with sleeplessness, haunt a town with shared terror, and nearly unmake an entire kingdom by dissolving the very idea of reality. The historical record paints a portrait of a Daedric prince whose malevolence is not bombastic, but terrifyingly personal. Molag Bal may seek to enslave your body and soul. Mehrunes Dagon may wish to burn your world to ash, but Vaermina desires only you. Your memories, your anxieties, your secret shames, and your private hopes. She is the ultimate parasite, for she infests the one place you can never truly flee. Her grandest schemes and most devastating plots are but echoes of the quiet, nightly violation she perpetrates against every mortal who dares to close their eyes. She is the reason for the cold sweat, the racing heart in the dead of night. She is the half-remembered monster from a childhood fever dream. She is the architect of every looping, nonsensical nightmare from which you have ever struggled to wake. So as you lay your head down tonight, and the world of the waking recedes into shadow, ask yourself, whose realm are you truly entering? If you survive this journey into the panoply of nightmares, please consider subscribing for more deep explorations into the darkest corners of Tamrielic lore. Let us know in the comments which Daedric prince or forgotten piece of history you'd like us to unearth next. Until then, try to sleep well. Or don't. She is always watching.